Hey everybody, welcome to Temporary Locals. I'm Megan from Mego Goes Global.
And I'm Jared from Rover Stover.
Welcome to the podcast. On this podcast, we explore the world and its stories like locals, even if it's just for a little while.
All right, so this is episode one. We want to kind of give a little bit of an introduction of ourselves. You want to go first?
Sure, I guess. Um, so like I said before, Mego Goes Global. I'm a budding travel content creator. Personally, I am a perfectionist and all about organization, so this podcast is me just trying to flex and branch out. So I'm just deciding to just do it.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm also, I guess, kind of a content creator, although I hate that term. But um, my name's Jared Stover, and I like to travel and photography. I like to write. We got a YouTube channel that we post on pretty frequently when we do cool stuff, and we decided to start a podcast. So here we are.
Yeah, and I mean we both love exploring new places, and most of the times our favorite trips are when we just kind of we have itinerary planned, but then we just kind of wing it and we find the local spots.
Yeah, yeah, you see a real divide in the travel community online about um like trip planning and having an itinerary or not following one. And I know a lot of the purists in the travel community are very against having an itinerary and just kind of letting things happen, which I also like. But for me personally, I just trip planning is so fun for me. I love studying a place, learning about the culture, planning the things I want to do um, before I even go there. So once you're there, you don't necessarily have to follow the itinerary, but creating one is a lot of fun, and it really gets you excited for the trip. So I kind of see both sides of it. So yeah.
Yeah. And just another thing, Jared is a little obsessed with ancient history, so we might be diving into that some on this podcast. And I also love a good true crime rabbit hole, so we might be, talking on some true crime topics on places that we've been or places we want to go.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Hmm.
So in this episode, we wanted to talk about our recent trip to Costa Rica, just kind of go over what we did, what we didn't do, any like funny moments, things that we learned and enjoyed.
Yeah. I think the most important thing to say right off the bat that I think you'll find when you start researching travel to Costa Rica, but that I really think we should reiterate is it's really important to get a four-wheel drive vehicle. Um, I know
Yeah.
that that's something that we kind of saw a lot of people saying before we went, but it was even more obvious once we got there. I know there was many times that we were doing things, and I remember thinking to myself like, how, and I mean we would say it out loud to each other too, is like, how would anybody do what we're doing right now in a regular car? Like, how would they get to where we're trying to go right now in a regular car? A lot of the roads in Costa Rica are undone. Um, you might have to cross a river randomly. It's very rugged. And so yeah, I think a four-wheel drive vehicle is definitely a must-have, especially if you want to do a lot of adventuring around the country.
Yeah, and I mean, we learned that on our when we went to our Airbnb. So we flew in to San Jose and then we rented a car and drove to La Fortuna up in the like mountainous region. I guess it's like the north,
It's north central, yeah.
yeah, north central.
Right.
And so when we got to our Airbnb, that road had been like completely washed out. So that was like our first,
Right.
moment where we were like, wow, we're really glad that we have this
Yeah.
four-wheel drive.
Yeah, and they were working on the road while we were there, actually, like trying to regrade it or whatever. And one of my favorite pastimes, while we were just kind of relaxing at the cat. It's famous because in 1968 there was a large eruption, and up until that point, for whatever reason. This, what they say anyway, is that they didn't know it was an actual volcano. They thought it was just a mountain, but it erupted in 1968 and destroyed some of the village and stuff. And so now it's, you can go there, you can hike the base of it, and you can hike the trail that's actually called the 1968 Trail, named after the eruption, and you can hike through the actual like lava fields, where there's like volcanic rock that you can actually hike over and stuff, and you get really good views of the volcano itself. So if you're looking for any hiking in the La Fortuna area, I definitely recommend that. Uh, I think that was the hike that your dad had the drone up too. Got some really cool drone footage.
Yeah, we we got some drone footage there, and then we also got drone footage at the national park.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, there's some differences on the two. The 1968 trail is more of like a private reserve, but you still pay. I can't remember. I want to say it was like $25 a person, but there's like three different trails, and just kind of off the top of my head, the one that we did, I think, was like the shortest one. It was the Colada Trail, which is the actual lava flow trail, like you said.
Hmm.
That one was like 1.5 miles or something like that. And I think the longest one gets up to like 6 miles, but
Yeah.
we'd have to fact check that. But, and then there's the national park, and the admittance is like $15 a person or something like that. So
Hmm.
I think, I mean, just kind of going back to what we were talking about with the hanging bridges and how we didn't pay for a guide. You can just see wildlife everywhere. I think we really optimized like the stuff that we wanted to pay for versus that just like budgeting what experiences we could get. And we did the same thing with the hot springs too, because we had planned to do, because there's the free hot springs that you could just like walk down into the river, or you can pay, and there's multiple hot spring resorts. So we actually had both of them on our itinerary, and we decided just to we went to the free ones first, and we were like, I don't even know why we would go to
Hmm.
the paid ones. And there it's like $80 per person a day at the Tabacon. So yeah, we had a great time just in the free hot springs.
Yeah, and the free hot springs are for sure more of a local spot, um, because they are free. So I mean, even I mean, like everything, it was somewhat touristy, but I mean, we also saw a lot of locals there. I mean, people going there on their day off, after work, whatever. People would show up that lived in the area that actually utilized the free hot springs. So it was kind of cool too, because I feel like it wasn't as touristy as if we had done the paid. Um, and so I really enjoyed that. But after a long day of hiking and stuff, and we did a lot of outdoor activities in Costa Rica, which you're gonna do if you're going to Costa Rica. It's really nice to do the hot springs at the end of a long day. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. And we only went once, and I think we kind of like joked like we could go back there every single day. We packed so much stuff into every day that we didn't go back. But I kind of wish, like, if we had a regret list or something like that, which I know no regrets, but if we had something to say like I wish I would have done this a little more, I think I wish we would have gone to the hot springs a little more.
Yeah.
And we say free, I mean, there's no entrance fee, but there are like parking attendant people. So like, you park on the street, and then there's people there kind of wearing vests, and it's just some local that's like, "Here, I'll watch your car for you so nobody breaks into it."
Right.
Which is another thing that, break-ins, I don't know that we were like necessarily like afraid of that, but and it didn't happen to us luckily, but when we went to return our car at the end, I don't know if it was like, maybe it was just, luck, or bad luck, I guess, or chance, but remember there was a couple cars in the like return line that had
And
smashed
smashed
out
windows.
windows.
Yeah. 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 I mean, that's an issue anywhere that you go in the world, because these rental car companies, some of them advertise the fact that it's a rental car, and it makes you a target. People, the locals know that this is a tourist or a traveler, and they probably have valuable stuff in their vehicle. So luckily, we didn't ever really take anything valuable with us, um, except for when we were coming back from the beach. I mean, we obviously had our stuff with us, and we stopped in some little small towns and stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's an issue everywhere. But yeah, we didn't experience any of that. And I've also heard, and anybody that travels knows the stories of you go to return a vehicle, and they try to screw you over by like saying, oh, this scratch, or this dent or whatever. So you always want to be vigilant and make sure you check over everything with the people, take pictures if you have to, before you actually take the rental car. And if there is any damage to the rental car or motorbike or any whatever you're renting, you want to make sure that that's like noted before you take it, because when you try to return it, they will, they can try to like pin that on you.
Yeah, and I do remember that was a huge concern for us. Like even my dad, who he booked the rental through National, even being like a whatever Emerald
Emerald
member or
Emerald
whatever,
Elite, yeah.
yeah, whatever it is. Um, he was still worried about it. Um, just because like we were did our research and heard a lot of people talking about oh you got scammed. There's lots of YouTube videos of people, whether it's clickbait or not, we got scammed at the rental car company. So I don't know if it's because we went with National or what, but we did, we took videos of the outside, or at least my dad did. And the rental car guys were kind of like, oh, yeah, go ahead. Like, do whatever. We didn't have a single problem returning that at the airport. So,
Hmm. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I mean, moving on, um, some of the other things that we did while we were there. Um, Once we got to the coast and we left La Fortuna, um, the main thing that I wanted to do in Jaco was visit the El Miro ruins. Um, it was something that I had seen. I've had buddies and stuff that I've seen visit there, and I've seen it, online as something that like you definitely want to do. Um, I guess the story goes is that there was an older gentleman that built this mansion up on the hill, up in the mountain, overlooking the beach. And I've never really gotten any confirmation on whether it was actually supposed to be a hotel or if it was just a mansion, his own personal home. But essentially, this man went. They say he died, but he essentially no longer lived there, and no one had ever heard from him. People said he went back home. He was Ukrainian, apparently, and people claimed he died, but nobody actually knows what happened to him. And he just left this building up on the mountain unfinished, and now it's just like an old abandoned ruins that's being it's been overtaken by the jungle, and it's just really cool. So I wanted to go and do that, and the first night we went, we yet again encountered another, I guess, parking lot worker. It's just a
yeah.
local guy who lives in a little shack at the bottom of the trailhead, and you give him a couple colones, and he'll wash your vehicle for you. Um, Really cool guy. And the first night we headed up, and it was raining,
Mhm.
and so we were trying to make it up before sunset so we could catch the sunset. But I think by the time we got up, it was already pretty late, and it was pretty dark.
Yeah, well, and it was dark too because of the rain. So,
Right.
I mean, it was cool because we got like it was lightning and it was just crazy. I got some cool like just videos on my iPhone of the lightning. It was just insane. But I feel like we have to back up just a little bit. We can come back and talk about Elmira a little bit more because we had a great experience there and it's just really cool. We can try to describe some of the architecture, but we have to back up because we went from La Fortuna and we packed so much into this one day. So we were like, okay, well, we want to go to we saw like a YouTube video, so we wanted to do Cape Radagata and Barroso, and we can kind of bounce back. But I just want to say we got up early. We went to that hike, which was, I don't know, it was like a few hours. We tried to split it up, the drive between Fortuna and Hako. So we did a stop, did a, I won't say quick. It was like a 6 hour, 5 6 hour hike at Cape Radagata and Barroso with the guide, and then we stopped at the Crocodile Bridge. So that it was like a 5 6 mile hike, and I was absolutely wrecked. And so, like, I was already so sore. So when we got to El Muro to do the like 1.5 mile hike, and granted it's all uphill,
Hmm.
I was like in so much pain. My legs were, they were like we are at our limit, but I just kept going. And so we go up to El Miro, and it's awesome. It's 3 stories, and I don't even think you and Dad went down to the bottom story. Um, so it I don't even know how to describe the architecture. It's like stone and like marble, and there's like railings that are like
Hmm.
um kind of low, and I don't know, it's just really elegant looking. It's like white, and then there's marble like looking tile, and just, pretty little terraces and graffiti everywhere.
Hmm. Yeah, you can tell it was going to be a really nice place. And the wall going um, up the trail to the actual building, is like adorned with all kinds of cool murals and paintings, and there's animals, and there's some Aztec gods on there. Really cool stuff. And then, yeah, you get up to the ruins and you essentially just walk into them. There's no roof on the top floor. You can tell that they were going to build more stories. Um, and it just looks out over the coast, over the beach, and it's, an amazing view. I would assume the best view in Hako. And but yeah, that first night it started pouring rain, and we got up there kind of late, and so even when we headed back down, the guy who watched our car for us even said, like, man, you guys should come back in the morning. Like, it'd be better in the morning, when it's not raining, and you could come back for the sunrise. So we left El Muro that night, went to bed, and then woke up at, man, I don't even know what time, 4 a.m. or something,
Something ridiculous, and I can't believe that we did it.
and went back.
Yeah. And I mean, when I tell you that I don't mean to be like complaining, but like when I tell you that my legs hurt so bad, it was like when I would take a step, my muscle would like give out, and then my knees would like lock up, and it was like I felt so um like machine like. I didn't feel like my body moved like a human body, and it was just a struggle for me to walk. But I was really glad that I got up and went and did that, cuz I mean, I remember like doing cross country, and my coach would say, we'd be complaining at like summer conditioning, and he'd be like, you know, you should run when you're tired,
Hmm.
because you'll get stronger. And so that's, I mean,
Right.
it's like, easier said than done, but I was really glad that I got up and went with you guys that morning instead of like sleeping in. I mean, for the views obviously, but just for recovery.
Right. Yeah, I've always noticed that, like, if I'm sore and I just sit around, um, it doesn't help. You got to keep moving, and so
It's like a metaphor for life.
yeah, just keep going. But yeah. So the next morning we got up super early and to try to catch the sunrise, and I remember it was so early that we were driving through Hako, through downtown, on our way out because El Miro's a little bit outside of town, on the outskirts, and we saw this woman walking, this like scantily clad woman, walking in like a short skirt and everything, and I remember just being like, "Oh, we see our first prostitute in Costa Rica." But as we got further downtown, like we realized that like, oh no, she was just coming from like a nightclub, and like the nightclubs were still open at like 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. or whatever, and people were still like coming out of them. And so, like a lot of places in like South America or Mexico, like they party and they party all night into the morning, you know. So, but anyway, we got back to El Miro that next morning and took the long hike up and got there for the sunrise. And we just kind of walked around and took pictures and video and got some drone footage, I think, that morning. And yeah, as we were kind of just hanging out, monkeys just started to, little capuchin monkeys started to just appear.
Yeah, that was incredible. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh. And like, yeah, we just got so many videos of them. They were like playing, you know, because it's like a big jungle gym for them. So they were like coming down from the trees. There was like five or six of them. And I have on video the one where he was on the railing and we had our stuff out. So like, you know, because we were kind of up there, we had the place to ourselves and we, for lack of a better word, like set up camp. Like you guys had your camera bags and you set them down, and like my dad hung his rain jacket up on one of the posts, and you know I had like a electrolyte drink that I set on the railing, and so we had stuff just kind of loose, and then you know we were like, oh, cute monkeys, and then they started inching closer to our stuff, and you know my dad's like, oh, you better you know grab your bag and like zip your bag up, Jared, and then we're like, oh shoot, like and so I have a video where the monkey's going up to my electrolyte drink and you're like, "No, no." And he like reaches his hand up and like he just touches the electrolyte drink and pushes it a little bit to where it kind of like it moves and then he pulls back and when it kind of came back and fell it didn't fall but it like you know came back abruptly it scared him and then he ran away. I just thought that
Yeah.
was so funny. He just like kind of like touched the electrolyte drink, like pushing the bounds, and then was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm scared," and ran away. Or the one that you got with your flash.
Yeah. So because it was still kind of early, we were just kind of taking pictures and stuff, and I was able to get pretty close shots of the monkeys because, like you said, they were just kind of coming right up to us, really. And I think because the trees are right there and everything, they felt kind of comfortable. They knew they could easily get away. And I also think that a lot of people that probably go up to El Miro are probably like loud tourists and are, you know, playing music or whatever. And I think that because we were pretty quiet and we were up there kind of just chilling and like watching the sunrise, they felt a little more comfortable coming down and kind of checking us out.
Yeah, and I also sorry to cut you off, but I also feel like they were kind of surprised to see us, but they were
Yeah.
kind of like, eh.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people, even though a lot of people obviously know about Umiro and it is a kind of a tourist thing in a way, it's also kind of like I don't think a lot of people go up there for the sunrise. And the two times that we were up there, we were the only ones up there until the end of that second day, which I'll get into. But they, we were just kind of taking pictures of the monkeys, and I was kind of getting some closer shots of them. And somehow I accidentally turned on the flash on my camera, and I took a picture of this monkey as he was coming up towards me, and my flash blinded him, and that picture is one of my favorite pictures. I think it's not like a great picture, but just this monkey's face, like just like with a bright light in his face.
It
It's
was,
one of the funniest pictures I've ever taken.
yeah.
And but it spooked them, and they all kind of ran away. So, but it was a funny moment, and yeah, they kind of just like jumped back in the trees, and they were kind of around us still. Um,
Hmm.
and then as time kind of drug on, we were just kind of up there hanging out, and once the sun came up and it was getting a little later, you know, we had the whole place to ourselves for a few hours probably, and then
Hmm.
eventually this group of local women, so you know, locals even come up here obviously, and this group of local women started appearing, and they come up here apparently to do like yoga in the morning, and so they
Yeah,
had
they
out all
were
their
like
yoga mats and
Pilates or Zumba or something. But yeah, it was
whatever.
like a whole
Yeah.
class, and we were like, you have no idea that like 2 minutes ago there was just capuchin monkeys where you're doing Zumba.
Yeah. Well, and they're locals, so they probably wouldn't care anyway,
Yeah.
you know. Um, that happened. Well, it's like that happened many times where like we'd be standing there staring at something incredible, like monkeys or a sloth or something in the trees, and locals are just walking by, like, yeah, dude, we live this every day. Like this is our life. It's like us seeing squirrels. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, so El Miro is one of my favorite things that we did, and it was kind of like going back to how we were talking about things are like amazing, and then it's just like almost too much, and it's like because just being up at El Miro is such an incredible experience, and you're in these like really cool ruins in the jungle, and an incredible view over the ocean and the beach. And then on top of that, like to have the monkeys come down and experience that was almost like too much. And then at one point, like as the monkeys are walking around us and we're up in this really cool area overlooking this beautiful view, a couple of um a couple of parrots just flew out from the trees, like right in front of us over the
Hmm.
ocean. And it's like I don't know if I should take pictures of the monkeys or the parrots. Like it's so much to take in at times, and it's just such an incredible place, man. And there's so much wildlife.
Yeah, and I mean that moment with the capuchin monkeys just really it felt like magic, dude. Because I mean, there's certain places that we paid for experiences, to see wildlife like that, and for that just to happen, just out in the wild, and there were so many of them, and they were so cute, and it was incredible. That was definitely one of the highlights for me, seeing the capuchin monkeys.
Yeah, yeah, and that kind of goes back to what I was saying about like, you can pay a guide to go out and like spot animals for you, and they obviously know where to look and they're professionals and stuff. But in a place like Costa Rica, if you're willing to get up early and you're willing to really go out deep into the jungle or go, and really get out there, it's like you're gonna see stuff regardless.
Yeah. Well, and 36 minutes into this podcast, we tell you that we went in May, early June, so that's like the beginning of the rainy season. So it's technically like off season too. And but I think pretty much year round because they were in like mountain time and they don't do daylight savings. So certain times of the year they'll be in central and then sometimes they'll be in mountain. So but the sunrise pretty much all year there, the sunrise and sunset is like 6 a.m., 6 p.m., give or take a
Hmm.
few minutes.
Right. Yeah, and it rains every day. I mean, it rained at least a little bit every day, but in
I
the
don't
tropics, like that's to be expected, and also it's a different kind of rain than like what we have here. It's a refreshing rain, really.
Yeah, well, and I don't recall like a single day where it was like, "Oh my gosh, it's been raining all day." And if it did, then I don't recall it like um hindering us. We
Right.
brought it rained on us when we went to the hanging ridges in Fortuna and
Hmm.
we had
Ponchos
yeah,
and
we had ponchos and it's just like you're in the rainforest, man. It's
yeah,
going to rain. And like you said, it's not the same rain. So like, we're from South Carolina and if it's going to be rainy, it's like it's going to be gloomy and gross and rainy all day. But, in Costa Rica, it's like, it might rain for 20 minutes and then be sunny, and then a couple hours later, might rain at all.
yeah,
Rain at all. Or it might rain more.
yeah, yeah. The rain there is it's refreshing at times. It's just if you're thinking about going to Costa Rica, don't be scared away from the rainy season. They call it the rainy season. It rains all the time there, I think, regardless. It's the same thing with Southeast Asia. They'll tell you like, oh, the rainy season, blah blah. Man, it's beautiful regardless, and we had a great time. And yeah, the rain didn't stop us from doing anything. I mean, grab some ponchos and got to make sure you keep the camera equipment uh dry. But we brought a number of dry bags too.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, number one thing that I'm glad that I packed was my dry bag and my hiking pants.
Yeah,
That's another thing is, I mean, I guess you could wear shorts, but on the like Arnall hike and stuff like that, where you're in the jungle, like you're coming across stuff, and I don't, uh-uh. And the bugs too. I mean, we did use bug spray, but having the hiking pants was definitely like I wouldn't go to Costa Rica without those.
Yeah. Yeah, regardless of how hot it is, there are certain places where you wear pants, and I think in
Mhm.
Costa Rica, I mean, you can wear shorts, but if you're somebody that attracts a lot of bugs or, it's probably a good idea to wear pants.
Yeah. So we have a couple things that we've like touched on that I want to make sure that we covers. Um, it'll be quick, like the Crocodile Bridge, the Fortuna Waterfall, the Jungle Love Lounge that we went to, and then we gotta talk more about our Quebrada Gata and Barroso hike because honestly, we could probably do like a whole podcast just on that experience.
Yeah.
But so kind of backing up from Hako, like we mentioned, we stopped at the Crocodile Bridge, so that's only like 30 minutes from Hako,
Hmm.
and it's just this like bridge that on one side there's kind of like a parking area and shopping, and locals come out and they kind of sell their like trinkets and like crocodile teeth necklaces and whatnot. But there's this bridge that you can walk out on, and um it's got sidewalks on both sides and like railings, so you can look down on the river below. It's the Rio Tarcoles, and there's kind of like a, I don't know what you would call it, like a little mini island or something of like just a patch of like dirt where
Mud,
crocodiles will like hang out.
yeah, mud flat.
Mud flat. There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah,
And I
and
found this out afterwards, but that river, the Tarcoles,
mm,
is the has a higher concentration of crocodiles than any other river in the world.
oh wow, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
or at least that's what Google says.
Uh, yeah,
But I think that that spot in particular, because people stop there. It's the place you stop on your way to Hako to look at crocodiles, and I think it's my suspicion that the locals that run those shops, that run the restaurants, that sell you the little trinkets and stuff, they feed those crocodiles to kind of keep them there. Because I mean, that river obviously has a lot of crocodiles in it, but they all kind of a lot of them seem to congregate on right in that area and on the banks there. So I think a lot of locals kind of feed them to keep them there, so that people continue to stop there and
yeah,
bring business to the area. But um, yeah, it was a really cool spot, and it's one of those things that they tell you that you should do, and it's also nice to break up that drive too.
yeah. I'm really glad that we did it the way that we did, and I don't know that we necessarily saw anybody else put that like specific itinerary together. I'm not saying like, oh, we came up with this. It's like this is the thing that you have to do. But I mean, I recall seeing those destinations of like, Fortuna, Crocodile Beach, Quebrada Gata, and Hako just kind of like spread out. Nobody like saying this is what we did it all in one day.
Yeah.
Which it's definitely doable. We did it in one day.
Hmm.
Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, something I would recommend.
Right.
Um,
So what else did we do?
so mm, one night we went to Jungle Love Lounge, which like we saw the signs kind of by the hot springs, but they're kind of all over Fortuna, and the signs are like hot pink and turquoise, and they've got two macaws on it and like a little heart in between them. And I'm just reciting all of this from memory.
Yeah.
But it says Jungle Love Lounge, and they advertise that they have 5 volcano views. So we tried to go there one night, but and I messaged the owner on WhatsApp, and because I think I googled it, found their website which had the WhatsApp number, and so I messaged them, and we were trying to go have dinner there and watch the sunset, but we they were actually not available, and they ended up texting me back the next day. But so that was the day that we raced up there because
Hmm.
the sunset, which we ended up kind of missing because we were, driving up there, but the sunset was just like so golden and like it's just hot pink and fiery. It was amazing. So we did go up there, and they weren't open, and it's just the owner's house, and then they kind of have like a bar that they opened up kind of next to the home. But the property is amazing. They advertised 5 volcano views, and I wish that I would have asked her, the owner, which other volcanoes and like had her point them out, because obviously Arenal you can see it's huge, but there's like 4 other volcanoes,
Well,
and it's also the view over Lake Arenal.
there's Poas is one of them.
Yeah,
That's the
there's
one that
almost,
was erupting while we were there.
yeah,
There's a
that's
whole
right.
ridge with multiple volcanoes, but when you actually go into the national park, the Parque Nacional, they have a list of them. They have pictures, and it kind of shows you which one's which, um, on your way to the tower that overlooks them. But yeah, going up to Jungle Love, that was another thing that we tried to do one night and kind of missed it, and so we went back the next day to do it. And yeah, it was. Do you remember her name? Kelly.
Yeah, her name was Kelly, and
Kelly.
she's from Detroit.
Yeah, and she just up and moved to Costa Rica one
Yeah,
day and
she
opened
said
a
that she
bar.
drove her car
Yeah.
from Detroit down to Costa Rica,
Yep.
and I think she said it took her like 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and she only drove during the day. But
Right.
yeah, and so she,
And the
you know,
irony is that Detroit's probably more dangerous than Central America and Mexico.
yeah, and she was actually pregnant. So the reason that they weren't open the day before is because she had to drive from Fortuna to uh
San Jose.
yeah, San Jose to go to the baby doctor.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about an area like La Fortuna is it's somewhat touristy, and obviously a lot of people go there for like adventurous stuff. But because it's more for adventure, it's very. I mean, you're in the cut. I mean, even the place we stayed in, like we were out there. I mean, there was some stuff around us, but I mean, you're in the jungle, and so I would imagine that all the best doctors and like if you have any issues or anything, you probably have to go to a bigger city like San Jose for things like that. And so,
Yeah, like specialized healthcare. I mean,
right,
they had urgent cares, and they did have a hospital in Fortuna, but
yeah,
I wonder if it's the case, if they just don't have an OBGYN, which I can't imagine, because I mean, there's quite a few, a good amount of people that live in Fortuna, but maybe that is the case. Maybe there aren't any. And she was saying her boyfriend was a doctor
hmm,
too, and they were she I remember just getting the impression that they were like understaffed, and he wanted to quit because they were working, like it was like 6 days a week and like overnights and stuff, just on call all the time.
yeah, well, yeah. Um, the two of them, so they ran the bar. They had just opened that place. It's a new place,
Mhm.
and so they were still kind of figuring it out. And so we went back the second night and did catch the sunset in full,
Mhm.
and it was amazing. Um, they claim it's the best vantage point for sunsets in La Fortuna. I don't know, but that's what they say. But it was amazing. So
Yeah,
you
it
know,
was amazing. I mean, obviously we haven't seen every place in Fortuna to be able to like, say that, but
right,
yeah, it was amazing. I'm so glad that we went, and that was just one of those things that like, wasn't on the itinerary. It was just something that we happened to see and we're like, "Oh, we should check that out."
right,
So,
yeah,
like you said in the beginning, we like to have an itinerary, but we also like to leave room to, explore.
right. Yeah, and a lot of times those are the best stories you have, or the best things you do, or the things you don't plan, the things you just kind of stumble into. Um, so yeah, I think it's time that we talk about Quebrada Gata and
Before we do
Barroso.
that, I'm so sorry, but real quick, we did do the Fortuna waterfall, and so we don't have to spend a whole lot of time on it. It was, um,
Well, that was gonna kind of tie into.
oh, okay.
Um,
All right.
what I was gonna say is that if you are somebody that is not uh super active, super outdoorsy, super into hiking, long distances, a place like the La Fortuna waterfall might be more your speed. There are a lot of stairs going down to it, which then you obviously have to climb back up. But it's a lot more easily accessed, and so if you're looking to look for if you're looking to visit some waterfalls in the La Fortuna area, um, that's a good option. I mean, it's very touristy, um, but we did a hike um, to some remote waterfalls deep in the jungle,
Hmm.
and they are known as Quebrada Gata and Barroso.
Yeah, uh, yeah, Quebrada and Barroso Canyon,
Hmm.
and I couldn't tell you which is which because we went to like two different
Well,
places.
Quebrada Gata was the first one we went to, and that was the one that we swam in. And then Barroso was the one that we were standing up on that kind of overlook with the multiple waterfalls all around us.
Yeah,
That was the way it went. So we showed up and met a gentleman who was to be our guide, and his name was Kenneth. Um, and what company is he with? Eco Tours.
yeah. Hold on, because there's lots of eco tours. I have his sticker here somewhere.
I have a sticker on my water bottle right there. Um,
Yeah, Eco Tours Toro Amarillo 360. WhatsApp 506-602-26981.
so we showed up to meet this gentleman named Kenneth. Just um, yeah, we kind of parked on the side of the road. It was a very not super like legit meeting. It wasn't like
Yeah,
a big tour company or anything. It was just a guy, and it's on you. You've the beginning of the hike is on a property of the water company. So
there's the hydro plant.
yeah, yeah. So you have to essentially. I mean, you walk around the fence, but you essentially break into the property, right?
Yeah, I mean, essentially you're trespassing. I booked it on WhatsApp because we saw there was like a viral video. Oh, I feel like we should credit her, but I don't.
Well, there's
I
many.
think
I
her
mean,
name
a lot of
is
people have them,
Emma.
um, but yeah, so we didn't really think anything of it. I think I didn't realize what this hike was going to be because we saw so many videos of it online.
Yeah.
I see all these YouTube videos of content creators and influencers and people that I don't necessarily would expect to be like super outdoorsy, like major big time hikers. And you see these videos all over YouTube of these people visiting this place. So I thought, well, it can't be that difficult to get to. But boy, was I wrong.
Yeah, well, and part of me is like, what if we just got that first time experience of like, the treachery because he did say when we were rappelling down to freaking get on the trail that like, oh, this is a new trail that me and this other guy are building. So I don't know, maybe he hasn't brought tour people down there, but yeah, he tied a rope on this railing and we had to rappel down, and it was so muddy and like slippery, and it was Jared, myself, and my dad, and yeah, we were just, I mean, honestly, thankful that nobody was injured.
Yeah. Yeah, and the way the hike started is you kind of walk down this long road. It was a mile down,
Yeah.
and it was slippery and wet. Um, and there's like little like mini waterfalls off to the side, kind of, and you're kind of walking down this long road, and then you get to I guess the beginning of the trailhead, and you go over this railing and you look down a canyon, I guess.
Mhm.
And I kind of thought for a moment, like, well, how are we getting down this? And then he pulls a rope out and starts tying a rope onto the railing. And I was like, okay, we're doing some rappelling. That's cool. But I kind of wonder if, and we kind of talked about this, is like, do you think he could actually have taken us a different way? But he kind of does that in the beginning to kind of like weed out the people that aren't going to be up to the challenge because
Maybe.
the rest of the hike after that is, and if you can't do that, if you can't rappel down, you're probably not going to make the rest of the hike.
Yeah.
So we rappelled down this rope, um, and then we got on the trailhead. And man, like you said, for I think 6 miles. You're just hiking, and it's not like a normal trail like we have here in the States, like you're in a national park or something. Like you're in the jungle, and we
Yeah.
hiked over boulders and rocks and through
Fallen
rushing
trees.
rivers, fallen trees, and you know, I've talked about this before, but these guides, well, first of all, Kenneth and his partners, I mean, they literally made these trails that we were hiking on, and he said that on one of the trails in particular, like these guys go out there with just themselves and machete, and they cut these tiny trails into the jungle, and these guys are, so good at what they do that he could literally tell us which rock to step on when
Yeah.
we were crossing a river, which rock not to step on so you don't, slip and fall into the river and get swept downstream. Like he could tell you which branch to grab onto and which branch not to grab onto. Like they're so good at what they do. And it reminded me a lot of like the Sherpas and the porters that they have like in Peru. It's like those guys, you think you're like an outdoorsy, like professional outdoorsy hiker type person, and then you meet these kind of people that do this stuff day in and day out for a living, and like they're legit. Like they do this every day. And just like the guides and stuff that people use in Peru, I mean, these guys carry giant packs on their backs, full camps on their backs, and hike up the Andes Mountains. And I kind of got that same feeling with Kenneth, in Costa Rica. Here is like this guy is just like he's different. He's not just like a, oh yeah, I'm just like a hiker, I'm an outdoorsy guy. Like no, like this guy, he does this 5 days a week, and it was the kind of hike that like normal people, you know, you might be able to do it, and then you're done for a year.
Yeah. I mean, if I hadn't have kept going at Elmira, I would have been done for like a week.
Yeah,
But yeah, it was really intense. And there was times where, like you said about him being able to like tell you which rock to put on, like even though there's like flowing water, like they do this every single day. He knows like there's a rock in that rapid that you can step on. And there was a couple where he would have one foot on like the right side of the bank and then put his left foot in the middle on like a rock that's underneath the water. So like you can't see his foot. And there was a couple times where he was like, "Put your foot on my foot," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't want to like crush you." And he was like, "No, it's fine. Like I'm used to it. Just put your foot there." And I I think that was the time that I fell in because I was like,
yeah,
"I don't want to step on this guy's foot," and I didn't follow his direction, and I ended up like almost getting swept away by the river.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I wasn't sure because I didn't really look deeply into like videos of people doing this hike, so I wasn't really sure. And I knew that they said that like you'd be crossing some water, and so I thought like, oh, we'll like be walking through some like streams, maybe up to like our knees, whatever. But once we got to the first river crossing, and I looked out over this like rapids, and it's like I have my camera with me, and he's like, all right, we're about to get wet, and I just thought, oh geez, like so we all had to put our like camera gear and stuff into the dry bags and put them like high up on our backs. And I mean, yeah, we were in the river. I mean, up to our chest. I mean,
Hmm.
and like if you slip and fall, like you're gone, like you're going,
Yeah.
and what was really interesting is like after we went through this whole hike and did all this stuff and finally got to like where we're out looking over all these waterfalls at Barosso. He said, before we left, he was like, because we spent some time there taking photos and stuff, and he was like, we have to leave before the rain comes or else we'll die.
Yeah.
And that's what he
And
said to us.
and I have to send it to you because I did just see, because I still follow the Instagram page. I did just see like a video posted, and he was speaking Spanish, so I kind of know what he was saying, but I have to assume that he was talking about like, oh, I'm glad that I made it out because there was just rushing water, and I think it was a slightly different trail than the one that we did because he was on like a metal bridge, but it was just like incredible like amounts of water just rushing. So at first, like, yeah, I didn't believe him when he was like, oh yeah, we got to get out of the canyon when it rains because we'll die. No, I actually, after seeing that, I do believe that the waters rise and that the a lot of the places that we were could have been underwater. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. I'm somebody that when I travel, I don't necessarily like tour guides. I mean, it all depends on where you're at. If you're somewhere that's not necessarily very safe, you probably want a tour guide. Um, in a place like Egypt, you probably want a tour guide. It's a lot easier to like navigate the country with like a local. Plus, they know all the history and stuff. But I'm not normally somebody that is like big on tour guides and stuff. But for like a hike like this, like you absolutely need a local, somebody who knows this area. Because even something as simple as that, if we had tried to do this hike on our own, I don't think we would have made it there. We probably would have got lost. But even like something like that, like knowing like, oh, the rain's coming, and if we don't leave now, like we're not going to be able to cross these rivers. Like it's stuff that tourists and travelers probably don't really think about. Um, so, like I said, kind of at the beginning of this story, is like if you're not somebody who's up for a challenge like that, or it's something that you want to kind of do on your own, like there's other waterfalls you can go see that are a lot easier to get to. Um, and you know, you can go, because like where we were, they were those waterfalls were so remote. I mean, there's no ticket booth, there's no bathrooms, there's no gift shop. I
mm-hmm.
mean, you're in the jungle. We were in the jungle, like deep
Yeah,
in the jungle. And I know that we talked about it afterwards, but I just keep thinking to myself, like, if one of us had gotten hurt, like, how would we have gotten out?
mm-hmm.
If one of us slipped and fell and broke a leg or whatever, they would have had to
Yeah,
like airlift us out of there.
yeah, and we have talked about this so many times, especially like, you know, we there was times where we were like worried about my dad because we're like kind of jumping up and down, and it was a lot even for my knees. And but I did read on his on the guides thing that he's like first aid and like emergency like certified. So I don't know everything that he had in his pack, and I'm glad that we didn't have to find out because what if we found out there was nothing in there?
Yeah,
But uh yeah, I have to like assume everything would have been okay, but I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know. That was one of the most expensive things that we did. Not most, but I mean, it was $45 a person, but honestly, that was worth it because you would not be able to find that, stumble upon that, you know, without a guide.
right,
And in the WhatsApp, like on the business page, it does have like a disclaimer at the bottom. It says this is not a legal hike. Um, Again, like you mentioned, we had to cross, like walk around the hydro plant fence, but like we saw hydro plant workers while we were walking down there, and nobody said anything to us. So, and we talked about this kind of before. They have to have some sort of agreement, or they're just like either they don't care or something for them not to say anything.
yeah. I think it's probably like an unofficial official agreement. The workers probably don't say anything, but the company itself probably doesn't want people hiking on their property. But it was one of those things where, in the beginning, when we first showed up and we kind of met this guy just on the side of the road, it kind of seemed shady to me at first. But, in hindsight and as we were doing it and once we were done, I was like, man, Kenneth is like legit, and I wouldn't have wanted anybody else to kind of be our guide for that.
Yeah.
So if you want to do that hike, yeah, you definitely need a guide. That's something you definitely want to do, and because it is dangerous. I mean, we could have got hurt. We could have,
Yeah, I did actually fall.
yeah,
Not on like a treacherous part. I was just standing on a rock, and like it had a slight incline, and I just started kind of slipping and like did a cartoon, like my legs kind of
yeah,
did the I don't even know how to describe it, just like, back and forth. I tried to catch myself, and I ended up like kind of cutting my hand just a little bit, but nothing serious, but that was the most
Yeah, and that was kind of the joke. Is like we went through, other than you falling in the river, like we went through all this treacherous hike, up and down mountains and through the jungle and all across rivers and all this stuff. And then it's like we were just kind of standing there, and you like slipped and fell. And it was kind of like,
Yeah.
like how does that happen?
Yeah, we weren't even moving. We were
Yeah,
just like
you were
taking a
standing
rest.
still. Yeah. uh, but yeah, so that was probably the coolest thing we did
Yeah.
the whole trip. And it was also the most legit thing we did as far as like really getting out there and, you know, into nature, into the wilderness. I mean, you don't really go much deeper into the jungle than that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was definitely a highlight. I think that was my favorite part of that trip. Um, there was one like funny moment that we had with a local, and it was when we were in Fortuna. Um, the the sloth guy at the cafe where we were talking about wanting to see
Mhm.
sloths, and we went there and we had breakfast at it was called Coffee
This
Time.
was like our first morning there, wasn't it? It was like our
Uh,
first day because we went down to find coffee.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because we hadn't
yeah.
seen any sloths yet.
That's right. That's right. And my mom asked the I don't know if he was the owner or the manager. I'm just assuming he was the owner, but she asked him like, "Oh, can I see a sloth? Like I want to touch one." And this is before, I mean, we learned so much about sloths on that trip. Obviously, I didn't know I knew they were an animal and that they existed before we went, pretty much. I don't think I necessarily knew, I guess, like objectively, that they're solitary and they don't like, being handled. Because I mean, I've seen videos of people, moving them off the road and stuff and like picking them up. So you don't think like, oh, they don't like that, but they really don't. I mean, any wild animal doesn't like to be touched, but sloths in particular are very solitary. And so I guess it was good of him to kind of educate us, but it was just so hilarious in the way that he did it. So he was like telling us how the sloths are, they have claws and they have teeth. And he said that they will, I don't even know how to like describe this, but they will use their claws to kind of basically do like a sternectomy or whatever, like open up your sternum and open it up like a saw contraption.
Yeah.
And he said he'll do that to dogs, but he said only when they're very threatened. But the kicker of that was he put his arms around my like he got behind my dad, put his arms around my dad and like mimicked the like sternectomy motion of like
Hmm.
putting his hands on both sides, like, hug from behind, hands in the middle of the chest, and like slicing down and pulling open.
Yeah.
My dad said that it kind of ruined it for him.
Yeah. Yeah. You think of sloths as being these like cute little furry, like docile animals, but apparently they can be pretty vicious. And I think the creepiest part of that is that they do it all with a smile.
Yeah. Oh
And
my
what's even
gosh.
more funny is like after this trip, it was like kind of the ongoing joke is that like sloths like are murderous and and the one night we were just kind of sitting at home just looking for something to watch and we found a movie on what was it on?
It was on Hulu, I
On
think.
Hulu and it was called Slaughterhouse and it's this like B horror movie about a killer sloth that kills a whole sorority or whatever.
Yeah, because dude, I don't know that we started watching it, but we turned on the trailer because we were like, no way,
Yeah.
and we sent the picture to like my parents when we had a good laugh about it. But the plot of the movie is like this girl, it's like a sorority house, and the one girl has a pet sloth, and like the like other popular girl in the sorority is like, they're both competing for some position or something like that. And the other one's like, she's like, get rid of the sloth now. And so then the girl, she like abandons him outside. And she's like, I'm really sorry. It was either you or me. And then the sloth like takes revenge.
Yeah. But
Oh
it's just so
gosh.
funny because that's their like national animal, and it's like on their money, it's on their like all their products and stuff, and it's like people like think like, oh, they're so cute and cuddly, and it's like no, like they're a wild animal just like the rest, and.
Yeah.
So
Well, and that guy's also the one who told us, which I don't know how we didn't come across this, but it's illegal to like touch or harass any wildlife in Costa Rica.
yeah, and it's kind of the same thing with like if you the whole sloth thing is kind of the same thing with a lot of the wildlife there is like if you don't know if you're not a local or you don't really know what you're looking at, like you could get hurt. And I mean, even down to like the tree frogs and stuff that are
Hmm.
like super colorful. And I mean, I guess a lot of people kind of understand that like color in nature means like stay away, but some kid might not know and might see a really cool red frog and think like, oh, it's a cute little red frog, and they touch it and then they die. You know.
Well, for we did learn from our sloth, um, spotting guide that you can touch them, you'll just be really, really sick, and you can eat one, and you might not die, but you definitely can't eat
Yeah.
two.
Yeah. I don't know if I would trust that, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, I'm not
yeah, not
experimenting. I'm not gonna
advocating
try
people
to
go
find
out
out.
and yeah, it's like going out in the desert and just licking random toads and trying to see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I
Well,
think that was a lot of the big stuff that we did. Yeah, I mean, Costa Rica's just if you're somebody that really likes the outdoors and you really like nature and you like the tropics, Costa Rica's perfect. It's easy to get around. The locals are all super friendly, and I think Central America in general just has its own vibe. I think it gets lumped in, unfortunately, with like South America. Um, I guess because they're all Latin countries, but Central America just has its own kind of feel to it, its own vibe. And you and I have been to South America, so we kind of know how different it is.
hmm yeah, I really enjoyed um Costa Rica. The only thing that I had to compare it to was Peru, um, because that was my first time leaving like the North America. Um, and yeah, the only thing that I would say, and a lot of people say this, is like, oh, Costa Rica is like the most expensive country in Central America or whatever. But that was one thing that I was kind of like, oh, like I really love that about Peru. That was like, oh my gosh, we just got like lunch for like $2.
Yeah, Peru's fairly cheap, but yeah, they will tell you that Costa Rica is one of the more expensive like Latin American countries to go to in both Central and South America. But you know,
I
it,
don't
it
think
still wasn't horrible. I mean, it's still
no.
cheaper than here.
Yeah, slightly. I don't think it was any different. We didn't spend any more money than, we would have gone like going to Moab, which was originally the trip that we were supposed to do. We were supposed to take a week and go to Moab, Utah, but one of our group members got hurt, so we postponed it until next year.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, this trip just kind of came about. I think a lot of our trips and trips that I've gone on in the past are trips that I planned for a year in advance, and this Costa Rica trip just kind of popped up out of nowhere. We originally talked about Guatemala, which I would still like to go to, but yeah, we decided on Costa Rica, and it was a really awesome time. So I'm glad we went.
Yeah, me too. We're already planning our next trip to Mexico City. I want to go for Dia de los Muertos.
Yeah,
So, still planning. Keep your ears peeled for a podcast about that in the near future. But with that, I think we'll just wrap this up.
yeah. Well, once again, I am Jared with Rover Stover,
And I'm Mega with Mega Goes Global.
and we will talk to you next time.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to Temporary Locals. Bye.